This check is a fake!
That check is completely valid. Examine that check again right now. I earned every cent of that.
The bright morning sun reflected across the towering glass walls of Westbridge National Bank as people hurried through the front doors, each carrying dreams, worries, and responsibilities. But no one noticed the quiet man in the faded blue jacket walking toward the entrance with a worn leather folder clutched tightly in his hands. His shoes were dusty, his clothes were simple, and years of hard work had left deep lines on his face. Yet his eyes carried a calm confidence that could never be purchased. Within the next 20 minutes, one careless decision inside that bank would change several lives forever. A bank manager would tear apart what she believed was just another worthless piece of paper, only to discover that it was a genuine $3 million check belonging to the very man she had dismissed without a second thought. Before the morning ended, her own boss would step into the lobby, straighten his suit, extend his hand respectfully, and address the humble stranger with a single word that stunned everyone present. "Sir!" Before we continue this unforgettable story, if you believe kindness is more valuable than appearances and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Echo. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world that compassion always matters. The man's name was Malik Carter, a 60-year-old retired construction contractor who had spent nearly 4 decades building schools, hospitals, libraries, and community centers across several states. Most people would never recognize his name because he had never sought fame. He believed that buildings were remembered longer than the people who built them. Years earlier, he had founded a small construction company with only one pickup truck, a borrowed toolbox, and an unshakable promise to complete every job with honesty. Success came slowly. There were years when he barely earned enough to feed his family, and months when he slept inside unfinished buildings just to save money. Even after his business became successful, Malik continued dressing simply and driving an old pickup because he believed money should improve lives, not impress strangers. A few weeks earlier, Malik had finalized the sale of his company after deciding it was time to retire. The sale had earned him $3 million, and the certified bank check resting inside his weathered folder represented the reward for a lifetime of sacrifice. Instead of spending it on luxury, Malik planned to establish scholarships for students from low-income families and renovate the neighborhood library, where he had spent countless evenings studying after exhausting workdays. That simple folder carried more than money. It carried decades of determination, hope, and gratitude. Inside the bank, however, nobody knew any of this. The branch manager, Vanessa Holloway, had built a reputation for efficiency, discipline, and strict professionalism. Unfortunately, over the years, she had also developed another habit: judging people within seconds of seeing them. Expensive suits received warm smiles. Designer watches earned immediate attention. Worn clothing often received impatient glances. Without realizing it, she had allowed appearances to become her first impression of character. As Malik approached the customer service desk, he politely explained that he wished to deposit a certified check into a newly established investment account. Vanessa happened to overhear the conversation while reviewing paperwork nearby. The moment she noticed his worn jacket and old folder, she assumed he must be confused or attempting some kind of scam. Instead of asking questions or reviewing the documents carefully, she interrupted the process herself. Employees standing nearby watched nervously as she examined the check with visible disbelief. Without confirming its authenticity through the bank's verification system, frustration replaced professionalism. Believing it to be fake, she angrily tore the check into several pieces before placing them on the counter. For a moment, the entire lobby fell silent. Malik simply stared at the torn pieces scattered across the polished marble surface. His face showed neither anger nor panic. It showed disappointment, the quiet disappointment of someone who had spent his entire life proving that appearances never reveal a person's true worth. The younger employees looked shocked. Several customers stopped filling out deposit slips. Even the security guard slowly turned toward the counter, sensing that something deeply unfair had just happened. Malik calmly opened his folder again and removed additional documents confirming the business sale, the legal transfer agreement, and identification verifying the transaction. He gently explained that the check had been issued only yesterday by the purchasing corporation and could easily be verified through the issuing financial institution. His calmness only made the uncomfortable silence inside the bank grow heavier. At almost the same moment, a black executive vehicle stopped outside the bank entrance. Out stepped Richard Ellison, the regional president responsible for overseeing every branch in the state. He had planned an unannounced inspection that morning, expecting nothing more than routine paperwork and operational reviews. Instead, the unusual silence inside the lobby immediately caught his attention. As Richard entered, his eyes fell upon Malik. His expression changed instantly. Without hesitation, Richard walked directly toward the humble man, extended both hands respectfully, and greeted him warmly. Every employee froze as they heard the regional president say, "Good morning, sir. It is an honor to see you again." The word echoed through the lobby like thunder. Vanessa's face lost its color. Richard had known Malik for nearly 15 years. Long before becoming a banking executive, Richard had served on the board of a children's hospital whose expansion had nearly failed because of rising construction costs. Malik's company had voluntarily completed nearly a quarter of the project without charging additional labor costs, ensuring that hundreds of sick children would receive treatment in a modern facility. He had never asked for publicity. He had quietly finished the work and returned to his next project. Richard had never forgotten that extraordinary act of generosity. As the torn pieces of the certified check were explained, Richard's disappointment became impossible to hide. Rather than expressing anger immediately, he carefully gathered every piece of paper from the counter himself, treating them with more respect than anyone else in the room had shown all morning. He apologized sincerely to Malik for the humiliating experience and assured him that the issuing bank would immediately replace the damaged check, while every expense and inconvenience would be personally handled by the institution. Vanessa finally understood the magnitude of her mistake. It was no longer about $3 million. It was about the respect she had failed to show another human being. She realized that she had ignored the most important responsibility of leadership, treating every customer with equal dignity. Over the following days, the story quietly spread throughout the banking organization. Rather than hiding the incident, Richard transformed it into a powerful training lesson. Every employee attended workshops centered on empathy, unconscious bias, patience, and professional respect. New customer service guidelines reminded staff that every individual entering the bank deserved courtesy regardless of clothing, occupation, age, or appearance. The lesson became known internally as the first impression standard, reminding employees that assumptions often create the greatest failures. Meanwhile, Malik finally deposited the replacement certified check without difficulty. Yet his attention quickly returned to the dream that had motivated him from the beginning. Construction began on scholarships, literacy initiatives, and library renovations throughout his hometown. Children who had once struggled to afford textbooks suddenly found doors opening before them. Families gathered inside beautifully restored reading rooms where broken shelves had once collected dust. Elderly residents found peaceful places to learn computer skills, while young students discovered books that inspired futures their parents had never imagined. Months later, Richard attended the grand opening of the renovated community library. Rather than displaying his own name, Malik dedicated the building to every hard-working parent who had sacrificed personal comfort so their children could receive an education. The walls displayed no portrait of him. Instead, they carried a simple inscription reminding visitors that true wealth is measured by the opportunities we create for others. One afternoon, Vanessa quietly visited the library alone. She spent hours observing children reading happily inside the bright building that existed because of the very man she had once judged unfairly. Deeply humbled, she volunteered for several community financial education programs, teaching families about budgeting, saving, and responsible banking. The painful lesson she had learned became the foundation for a more compassionate career. If this story has touched your heart so far, please support Kindness Echo by liking this video, sharing it with your friends and family, and subscribing for more inspiring stories that remind us kindness always leaves a lasting legacy.